Greetings, mere mortals, and welcome back to Monster Month.
Last week, we took a look at a robot pretending to be a monster.
Guess he was a pretender, get it?
He had a skull for a head. Today, we'll be doing something quite similar. A cobra that pretends to have a skull for a head. So meet Skullbuster. This figure was released in 2002 with no original body parts. Yeah, it's a complete recolor of the Range Viper mold from 1990. And it sure has a strange color scheme. I'm not saying it's bad, just weird.
And weird can be cool.
The reason we're looking at him is of course because the helmet's faceplate is shaped like a skull. And unlike the Range Viper, it's got the proper color. I mean, a blue skull. Who did they kill for that? A Smurf? The dominant color is purple, but it's a very shiny purple. It kinda gives it a glittery look, and I don't think I've seen this type of paint application before or since. The other colors are bronze and white, with a bit of blue and red thrown in. Like I said, all weird choices, but they do make the figure look unique, and it's all very detailed work.
The best part, obviously, is the head.
With the white skull and the evil red eyes. But also, the rest of the helmet looks vaguely like brain matter. All in all, a pretty gruesome look.
When it comes to his accessories, things get dumb and kinda weird.
Since this figure is from 2002, he was part of the G.I.Joe vs. Cobra line, and so needed to have that stupid sound attack gimmick. In this case, that means getting a gun with a slot to stick in a vehicle to produce a different sound effect. This weapon originally came with Spirit, and has been thoroughly ruined by this gimmick. He also came with a pretty cool gun that originally came with a Destro figure.
No complaints there.
Then things get weird when it comes to his backpack. It's one that originally came with a lowlight figure, and it has a place that can hold a knife.
Skullbuster did not come with a knife.
Now, you would think he'd come with a version of the Range Viper's pack, considering he has the same body.
But guess what?
Skullbuster was sold in a 2-pack with heavy duty, and that figure was given the Range Viper pack. And no, this isn't just me mixing up what accessory goes with who. The backpack is clearly color coordinated to go with heavy duty. My only conclusion is that there was a factory screw-up and they mixed up the colored plastics for the two backpacks, and Hasbro just went with the screw-up.
Though that's not the end of the mistakes.
As Heavy Duty also didn't come with a knife, in case he was supposed to have this one, and the Range Viper had a hose that attached from the head to his backpack that's not in this set either. So the little peg on the back of Skullbuster's head is useless, and honestly a bit distracting from the overall look of the figure. Now, we do need to compare this guy with a few others that use the same mold. There's the original Range Viper, of course, and the Rock Viper from 2000. Neither of the new figures can stand up to the original since it has such an iconic look.
As an aside, can we really call these new figures anymore?
They themselves are 20 years old. They're only new in comparison to the original line. Anyway, both Skullbuster and the Rock Viper have their own unique takes, with the latter giving him a color scheme not unlike the original Viper. I would say this look is better than Skullbuster's, but I prefer it anyway, for reasons I'll get into when we get to the character. And this was the only version of Skullbuster ever released.
Well, at retail anyway.
There was a Collector's Club exclusive in 2013, but we don't have it, and Monster Month has already been expensive enough as it is, so I'm gonna ignore that figure. Overall, the Skullbuster figure is pretty wild but cool, and his unique look is oddly fascinating.
With that, it's time to talk about the character, which pretty much means that we need to look at the file card to find out what this guy's deal is.
And his deal is, he's the Range Viper Commander. Well, that explains the outfit. He became their leader by being twice as mean and 3 times as nasty as the others. He considers himself the ultimate predator at the top of the food chain. Like all range vipers, he's trained to survive in the wilderness, living off the land, or more accurately, the creatures of the land. But since this is the G.I.Joe vs. Cobra line, there's also a blurb about him having a picture of heavy duty in his locker with the phrase, "Know your enemy" on it.
Look, it was the style at the time.
He's also got a motto. Any wimp with a scout handbook, a Swiss Army knife, and a compass can survive.
And, that's it. I feel that motto is incomplete.
Shouldn't there be a second sentence saying how much more badass he is compared to that? I mean, this is just weird. So, basically, he was such a survival expert and nasty guy, he became leader of the Range Vipers. That's a perfectly valid file card.
And I reject it completely.
Why? Because of the figure's color scheme. I told you there was a reason I liked it. Specifically because of how much it reminds me of another character, namely Evie.
No, EVI, Evie. I think for some of you an explanation may be in order.
There was a Deke cartoon episode, one of the few actually great ones, called I Found You, Evie. The story is about Ambush encountering an old childhood friend, Evie, but she's joined Cobra as a Range Viper. And the character has a different color scheme compared to the other Range Vipers, one that Skullbuster closely resembles. So I choose to believe Skullbuster is actually Evie. This does mean ignoring the file card, which has Skullbuster being a guy.
So that's just what I'm doing.
And of course, the figure doesn't have any noticeable breasts, but you could argue the survival suit or body armor is so thick it wouldn't show any feminine curves anyway.
And that's my take on that whole thing.
Now, I said we were gonna ignore the Collectors Club figure, and we are, but only the figure. We will take a look at the file card, though.
Because the club made it quite the thing.
Skullbuster is not only the Range Vipers operations commander, but also their wilderness survival instructor. More importantly, he's gotten a name and birthplace. He's from Donner Pass, California. Now, this place was named after the Donner Party.
Mr. Donner certainly knew how to throw a party, though the catering left a bit to be desired.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, the Donner Party refers to a group of American settlers heading for California that got stuck in the snow in 1846 and were forced to start eating each other to survive. The Donner Pass, which isn't a town but, a pass, is named after them. Next, Skullbuster's name is Albert Pecker. That name itself doesn't bring up anything, but Google will helpfully ask you if you meant Alfred Pecker, who was known for something.
Namely, being the Colorado Cannibal.
This guy set out with a party of 5 in 1874 during winter through Colorado to go prospect for gold.
6 men entered the wilderness, 1 walked out, and he looked surprisingly well fed.
While the exact circumstances will never be known, it's broadly agreed Pecker killed the other 5 not just for food, but also for their possessions and money.
Charming fellow.
With Skullbuster being called Albert, not Alfred Pecker, you could assume he's a descendant of the Colorado Cannibal. These 2 details on the file card are fairly subtle, and I would applaud them.
But the rest of the cards throw subtlety so far out the window it lands in another time zone.
His motto now reads, I hope we run into some G.I. Joe soon. I'm feeling hungry for a fight. The card says Skullbuster sits at the top of their twisted food chain, and his troops give him a wide berth if he hasn't hunted anyone in a long time. They say he has human bones in his locker with fresh teeth marks on them. They beat you over the head with it so much you'll get a concussion.
We get it already. He's a cannibal. They went from this
I've got a gut feeling Ooter's around here somewhere.
to this.
You might even say we just ate Ooter and he's in our stomachs right now.
In a freaking flash.
All this does provide an additional reason why Skullbuster is featured on Monster Month. And it's a nice bonus since I swear to Cthulhu I had not read this card before deciding to feature the character. Sometimes things work out much better than you had initially thought.
Finally, a word about the code name.
Skullbuster. Having the word skull seems a no-brainer looking at the face mask, but Skullbuster kind of implies to me that he wants to bash his own face in.
It's kinda weird is what I'm saying.
And that was Skullbuster. An interesting looking figure, and a character you can see as the badass leader of the Range Vipers, a deranged cannibal, or Ambush's childhood friend. Hell, mix it up and make her a cannibal too. Be careful if she invites you to dinner, Ambush.
Until next time, mere mortals. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.